Well, in his last press conference in 2016, President Obama has said that the world is united in horror at the assault on Aleppo, and the Russian and the Syrian regime have blood on their hands. In the press conference, Obama also touted his achievements and addressed ongoing challenges, including the situation in Aleppo.
We have seen a deliberate strategy of surrounding, besieging, and starving innocent civilians. We've seen relentless targeting of humanitarian workers and medical personnel, entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble and dust. There are continuing reports of civilians being executed, and these are all horrific violations of international law. Responsibility for this brutality lies in one place alone, with the Assad regime and its allies, Russia and Iran, and this blood and these atrocities are on their hands. We all know what needs to happen. There needs to be an impartial international observer force in Aleppo that can help coordinate an orderly evacuation through safe corridors. There has to be full access for humanitarian aid, even as the United States continues to be the world's largest donor of humanitarian aid to the Syrian people. And beyond that, there needs to be a broader ceasefire that can serve as the basis for a political rather than a military solution.
Well, Jennifer Glass is standing by for us in DC to give some analysis on what Mr. Obama had to say tonight. And Jennifer, he had a lot to talk about in his last press conference in 2016. First of all, we heard a bit of it then. What else did he have to say about the war in Syria and what's happening in Aleppo?
That's, I suppose, what you could say kept peace for a long period.
Well, he said that because of what's been going on, he says that Russia, Syria and Iran are trying to obfuscate the truth and that the world should not listen. And when he was asked by one of the journalists in the press conference whether as the president of the free world, he felt a moral responsibility for the carnage going on in Aleppo, he says he feels responsible every day, but he defended his record. He said that all during his presidency, he looked at the situation in Syria over and over again with his experts, with his military experts, with opponents. They looked at every option, but short of putting thousands of U.S. troops on the ground and be willing to take responsibility for Syria, which would have been long, lengthy, expensive, and likely deadly, it wasn't something that he felt that he could do as president of the United States. So very much defending his decisions on Syria, for which he's been roundly criticized in the international community for not doing enough in Syria, but he laid the blame firmly at the feet of the Assad regime and its supporters, Russia and Iran. And
as I said, it was a wide-ranging press conference. He also got a tough question on the hacking scandal that was carried out by Russia on the DNC and their influence on the election. And there's also a sort of a revealing diplomatic insight. What did he have to say about that, Jennifer?
Well, not just one tough question, a number of tough questions about the Russian hacking. Now, he refused to say that actually Russian President Vladimir Putin was involved in that, but he did say that when intelligence agencies during the election campaign learned that Russia was involved in the hacking, he felt the best thing to do was to talk to Putin face to face. That's what he did in September, and he told him to knock it off, in the president's word, to stop the hacking. And he says that after that, the hacking did stop, that the Russians did stop their hacking, but by then the damage had been done. And he says that basically big questions have to be asked about the U.S. system and about the press and the media when so-called fake news, when these kind of hacks and fake news put out by a foreign power, he says, can affect a U.S. election cycle. So a very thoughtful President Obama as he finishes his final press conference of the year, and perhaps even, Kamali, the last press conference of his presidency.
Absolutely. And finally then, Jennifer, there's a new man in that house behind you in about 30 days' time. What did Mr. Obama say about his relationship with Donald Trump?
You know, he's been very quiet about his relationship with Donald Trump, but in this press conference today, he says he's been speaking to the president-elect fairly regularly, and he says despite their policy differences, he has been having conversations that he says have been cordial. And he said, you know, there is just something about the gravity of this office. He says he's been offering some advice about how to have a continuity of office, about how to have a continuity of democratic institutions in Washington. And he said that Donald Trump has been listening. He doesn't know what the impact will be, but he does say that the conversations he's been having with the president-elect Donald Trump, who will be in this moving in on January 20th here in Washington. He says President Obama, the outgoing president, says despite their policy differences, they have been having cordial conversations about Donald Trump's future presidency.
Cordial conversations indeed. Jennifer, thank you very much for now.